In fall of 2021, I introduced Stephen Hogbin's work to the Lancaster Woodturners Coffee Hour. I'm John Kelsey, moderator. This is the cover of Stephen Hogbin's book, Hogbin on Woodturning, which I edited 10 years or so ago. I've known Hogbin for many years, as I'll explain in a minute. I've been involved in an awful lot of book edits in my long career, including I did the photography for Ellsworth's book. I did the design and layout for Malcolm Tibet's book on segmenting. And I've worked on, I don't know, Barry Gross's books. I've worked on an awful lot of books, and a lot of them are turning books. But of them all, this particular book, Hogbin on Woodturning, is the best book I ever worked on, and the most interesting and the most startling in a lot of ways. It's still available from Fox Chapel for, I think, $24 or $25. This is the cover, and that is the man over there in the corner. I met Hogbin back in the 70s. He lived in Toronto at the time. He now lives in Owen Sound. There was a meeting of the World Craft Council in Toronto, and this is the poster and the card that Hogbin's gallery made and saturated the conference with. I was living in Cleveland at the time, and a lady of my acquaintance came back from that conference and brought me this card and a magazine article about Wendell Castle, and it was like, oh, I get it. And I quit my job and moved to Rochester and went to school to study woodworking and furniture design for a couple of years. But on the way, I took this card and I went to Toronto to find this guy because this work blew me away. I couldn't understand how the hell he'd done it or what was going on. And I found a skinny kid about my own age in a rented loft space in the industrial district of Toronto, trying to figure out how to cope with his wife and his babies and make this kind of stuff. And we've been friends ever since. Most of these are split turnings. The chair up at the top left is a full-size chair. It comes with another chair and a table that were made on this lathe. We're back in the 1970s still. I brought this up because Duxbury a couple of weeks ago showed a piece that was made in the vein of some of Stephen's work. Anyway, this was the truck axle lathe that was used to make these discs. There's half the disc sitting on the floor and the other half on the faceplate. When this thing was going around at about 100 RPM, it was a sight to see, let me tell you. It was a behemoth. Constant terror of it coming off and rolling across the shop and out through the wall. And it got made into 2 chairs and a table. And you see how he did that? He turned one side of the disc, left the other side flat. It was a stack laminate. It was stack laminated right on the lathe. And then the disc was sawed in half and the flat sides glued together to make and then the chairs and the table hacked out of it and ground and sanded. So here's a page from Hogbin's sketchbook that shows you the kind of things he was doing at the time.
Wait a minute. Does he have a 6-foot bandsaw or something?
I don't remember.
Holy smokes, how do you cut?
There was no 6-foot bandsaw involved.
Well, you say just cut it in half. My God, you know that.
Well, it was handsaw, actually. It was cut in half with a handsaw. I have a picture someplace, not here, of the handsaw halfway into the work. The lathe was used as an armature, and the desk was cut in half by the old way, pushing the saw.
Well, people think that's great to turn that stuff. You know, the thing must weigh 400 pounds, and then you just cut it in half or cut it in 3 pieces. That sounds real easy.
It's not. And the other thing about it is you think, oh, it's going to be quick to turn. It's not.
Yeah.
There's an enormous volume of wood to be pulled out of that piece. So anyway, here's some sketchbook stuff, and then I'm going to show you the work that led to. This is a very early piece, and your piece, Duxbury, the other week reminded me of this. You can see how this was turned as a bowl with a lump in the middle and then sawed in half and joined at the rim. One of the things that Hogbin learned at the time, and I learned too, is if you don't want to see that glue line, you have to make a little extended flange there and then sand it off. If you try and make that a level joint in the first place, you're going to get a valley and you're going to get a glue drool. And that's just the nature of the way this works. This one happens to have been joined end grain to end grain, which didn't make a lot of sense, but or I think it, I'm not even sure. But anyway, this one, Duxbury, is a lot like what you made. Again, this was turned on both sides and then sawn in half across a diameter and glued rim to rim. As this one was, I think this one was in the sketchbook drawing someplace. I think it was pretty clever to get this to show up in the turning.
John, have these all been flattened on the bottom so they will stand up?
I don't know. I've never seen these in the flesh, or I saw them in the flesh 50 years ago. I don't know what they are. I don't know anymore. There's a sketch for that one, or a bunch of sketches for that one. One of the things that Hogbin's sketchbook shows you, you don't have to be very good to do useful sketches of these things. It's really an exercise in thinking them through. Here's another one, cut into four.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that ingenious? It just blows me away.
Wow.
Here's a piece again. This was turned basically as a vase with lumps on one end and an open end, and then sawn and rejoined at the rim. And because of the grain orientation here, I think it's actually a long grain glue up, so it's pretty sturdy, although there's probably some little pin dowels in there. And it's a big fruit bowl with handles. It's really a terrific piece. This is the piece that blew me right out of the water when I saw it, and also Mark Spheri has a special spot. Spheri has always said that Hogbin was 30 years ahead of his time in 1975, and he's still 30 years ahead of his time. I thought this was a beautiful piece made of, I think, lace wood as an egg cup. But it really, you can see it was started life as a square turning, a flat turning, flat on one side, turned and cunningly sawn into 4 pieces and re-glued.
Wow.
And again, I want to remind you, this is all this work was done in the early and mid 70s. This is another fruit bowl. In this case, it was turned basically as a deep vase, and then a wedge taken out of it before gluing it back together. You can see that the full shape is revealed on the upper left, and on the lower right, there's only a little bit of it left because of the wedge section that was taken out. People look at this and have no idea how it was made, and it really is a mental exercise to figure out. There's another one. This is left square, basically square on one side. Now, this doesn't make a useful bowl unless you're putting things like Easter eggs or Christmas ornaments in it, because you certainly don't want guacamole down inside those ridges. But it is a very beautiful thing.
Did he have a big disc sander? How'd he flatten those things?
I don't know. Yeah, I think so. I think he did have a big disc sander. I think I remember an enormous disc sander.
He needed gems.
Only
Yeah.
made with a truck axle.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that might be the end of that slideshow. So I'm going to stop the share. And I have more slides of some other work, but I might show those another time. So how did you like that?
Cool.
It was good.
Very cool.
Very good. Yeah.
Enjoyed it.
Amazing. Yeah, very interesting. Thanks.
Wood shop. Thank God for wood.